All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the final refrain. My name is Orion. I am joined today by Kalos. Welcome, Kalos.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am super excited about this matchup. We've got one of our what is it, semifinal matches here. Take a look at our bracket that is
It is
almost
indeed
filled
the
out.
semi-finals.
JDG versus Dammat. Um, this is pretty intense. This is let's just go ahead and take a look at these decks because this is going to be a crazy matchup.
For
So
sure.
you were just talking about JDD's. Wow, I can't say that. JDG's deck before we started. What do you see in here?
Yes, I've had the joy of commentating it once before. It was against X Kicks. I'm not sure which round it was. I think it was round two. And of course, what immediately stands out is the three Quixel Stones.
Yeah.
It's just an insane amount of just anti-creature and anti-meta in general, which I love. Nowadays we get too caught up on the Xylos, the Winds of Death, but with the Quixel Stone, it all doesn't matter. And that's not the only thing it does.
Hmm.
I've also been privy to a rule of six combo, which completely drains your hand and puts your keys at +12.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many iterations of that style he's done, if it's always been this pod or what, but basically he has it's like two different draw pips in this, right? With the Waking Nightmare and then the I don't think it's actually on the Mindfire, is it? Or maybe one of the Mindfires does, but he can basically archive his whole deck, put it all into his hand, and then just cycle those cards for rule of six of both of them to make your keys cost a lot and discard your hand and steal while you're doing it. So take some time to set up, which I think will be the real trick for Demott, but we'll see. And then Demott over here sporting the World Championship deck. This is a Brow Cow block. We've seen it several times this tournament already. There's a couple of these. This is one of the ones that has gotten the farthest along with Harmed, and it's just nasty. And it's already beaten specifically a Quixelstone deck already, so that will be really interesting to see how this goes. But I think our
What's its
players.
artifact control like? Has it got ways to deal with three of them?
So it has the. Sorry, I'm gonna get into the game here really quick. It has I can never remember which one. I think it's the Spontaneous Awakening. Um,
Ah, yep.
where you can take control of it and play it, which is very important. So it can actually replay the Eaton's Jar and call a new house. But it cannot take the Quixel Stones off the board. So that
As
is
I
the
say, it
real
still
trick.
plays them, right? So they're still in play.
Yeah. So as JG, you have to be really careful on when you play like the auto encoder and stuff because that could get really bad if that gets stolen. But basically, I think you have to jar that card when you do it because your Quixelstone is already dealing with the Lees and stuff. But we're gonna move over to our game one here. We've got JG on the bottom and Demott on top.
Are the names correct? Oh, good job, good job.
I believe they are. Our scores are actually correct too. We've got some JDG fans in here already. Sloppy lab work, staying up late to watch the teammate.
I don't blame them. It's going to be an exciting showdown.
It really should be. I'm super excited to see what happens with this match. Again, like we said, Demott's deck already beating a Quixelstone deck, and that deck actually got the Quixelstone down pretty fast, at least in game one. So Demott's deck just has a lot of Amber generation that can maybe get around this. Players are going fast here, though, so we're going to have to kind of keep up. We do have a Quixelstone number one down already, though, on
Instantly
JDG's
turn
side.
one.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what the three of them gets you, right? The consistency for that is so good.
100%.
Demont here, though, getting the Boo right away in here somewhere. Spontaneous Awakening and Boo. So it is grabbing that Spontaneous Awakening right away to have it in case of any artifacts other than Eaton's Jar coming down. Going to try and pick those up. JDG, though, taking a very JDG turn and discarding 3-star Alliance creatures and passing.
Do we have discard stats on for Final Refrain?
That's a good question. I'll need to ask Snoopy about that. I think there's
I don't
been
think I've seen
some.
it, but it would be incredibly humorous.
Okay, so we see JDG Lethalogica into the autoencoder, does pass up an
Hmm.
Infernus and an Umbra Fiend. That Infernus would not be the worst thing to see right here with one of the Cowps and an in here somewhere in the discard already for Demott.
Certainly not.
And
Do we
Kalos, I
know
don't
if
know if I.
Damat's faced Infernus before?
Let me think if there's been Infernus. I'd have to go back and look at the other matchups.
I'm thinking surely that's also a very hard card to get around.
It is, except yeah. So I guess Dammat's deck does not have the way around the purging like Harms does. Harms can actually get around purging as well. Let's see. So we see an Eclectic Inquiry does not play the autoencoder there, but does hold it in hand. So that's going to be chaining JDG basically until he finds the jar. I was going to say though, Carlos, if you want to join the game as a spectator, you can see the password. If that helps you kind of keep track of what's going on instead of watching me click on discard piles and stuff, you can definitely do that. But
Yeah, give me
whatever
one
helps you.
second.
While the players actually take a break. Both these players came out very, very fast. I don't think we talked about. Looks like JDG went first, had the Crystal Stone in hand turn one, and
Again, very likely with the three of them.
yeah, didn't draw though, so didn't have to mulligan for it either. I think Dammat did mulligan. Okay, rogue operation there for Dammat hitting in here somewhere in BR, guys. 2 cards you definitely want to have in hand, especially against these Infernuses. That BR Geist is huge, so we'll see if JDG has a chance to purge some of those here. Ooh, go Star Alliance instead, though. Okay, so again, having to take it slow here for JDG. Does get the Matter Maker down, but Dammat taking first key. Going up to 8 Amber there. And this is again where we saw just Dammat's deck, even if it's not playing any creatures, it can still just generate
Yeah,
so
it
much
does go to
Amber.
show it's not just a one-trick pony.
Yeah. So we do get
Let
the
me
Geist to
find
a
this
turn here.
password. Here it is.
There's the island. JDG's deck also not having artifact control, I don't think. Let me see. Yeah, so no artifact control on JDG's side either. So that island is ready to go next turn with basically everything in discard. If you're JDG, I think you want to Infernus here, but it's got to go Logos. Gets that Universal Keylock down with your opponent being up a key is a bit risky, but he just needs to slow down this game kind of at all costs.
Definitely playing for the long con at this point.
Okay, man, this is going to be probably a pretty rough turn for JDG here. And my guess is he's having to start chaining himself more and more here to make sure stuff doesn't get purged, because with this Island of Misfit toys down, we're probably going to see a BR Geist of an Infernus, which can hit some of JDG's tools that he needs.
It would be the only creature on the board, and they can't use the Infernus.
Yeah. Does he have a way to kill it in Unfathomable?
That was my. I was just about to look for that. They have tendrils, right? Does that work on yourself?
It does, but that would give it back to JDG basically.
Very true. Very true. I think that's it though, right? Call of the Void or only exhaust it. Unless it's already when you
Oh,
play it,
I
you could
guess
instantly get rid of it.
you get the Winds of Death back if you do the island here. So you could
Oh yeah, and that too.
replay the or play the Infernus off the BR Geist and then Winds of Death to get it off the board, and it does give JGG the Ultra Grav, but maybe he needs it at this point just to get the efficiency. No jar yet for JDG is big. I wonder game two, and not to say that this game is over by any means, but I wonder if game two, if you're JDG, if you actually mulligan for the jar over Quixelstone.
Yeah, very good. A very interesting idea there.
Because we saw he already picked up the autoencoder, but he just cannot play it as long as Dammat has the that card I can never remember. Spontaneous Awakening.
I suppose at this point though, if you do have Jar, you purge one of the triples, right? Or is there something else you would purge? Or stop being played, basically.
Well, I think you have to stop the Spontaneous Awakening, otherwise your autoencoder gets snagged by
Oh yeah,
Dammat, and
yeah,
then
of
Dammat just
course.
gets crazy efficiency, right? Like that would be horrible if that gets stolen. Okay, so we do see the island getting popped here. Tons of value there, and especially if you Winds of Death here too, Damat's deck just becomes so efficient.
Yeah, this is looking like key two, right?
Key 2, it is going to be expensive Key 2 with the Universal Key lockdown, but it's not looking great for GDG at this point. I think this game is going a little bit faster than he needs it to. Ooh, we do see the booze hitting JDG's deck this time, but it does not hit a jar. So JDG will
Yeah, the
get
Jar is not present.
We'll get to jar this turn, but is that going to be enough? Let's see. Does he have 2 Infernuses too? Never remember if his deck has. No, his deck only has 1.
Just the one.
Mindfire draw pip though is also in the discard there, so that is part of the loop. So if we get a BR Geist of the Infernus here, that could purge pieces of that rule of 6, which would be pretty devastating. All right.
Even just if you look, both Quixel Stones are gone. So if you Spontaneous Awakenings the Quixel Stone, you know that JDG doesn't have one next turn.
Well, but Spontaneous Awakening keeps it on the board, right?
Uh, yes, but does it come in exhausted? You could kill it with Call of the Void. Oh, it's
Well,
we're in
it doesn't become a
Geistoid, aren't we?
creature. It's that's why I was saying there's too many weird Geistoid
Oh,
cards that interact
am I
with.
getting confused?
I might be saying the wrong one. Let me see. No, it is Spontaneous Awakening. So this one, you get to take control of an artifact and play it as an artifact. It's not the one that turns it into a
Oh,
creature. That's what I
not as
thought
a
it was at
creature,
first
right?
too, which would make this much more different. But there we go. See the BR Geist for the Infernus, and we'll see what gets purged here. This
They
could
are very
be,
similar.
yeah, I get it. There's 3 different cards in Geistoid that I get all 3 of them confused all the time.
And Geistoid definitely needed all three of them.
Right. Of course they did. So I gotta
Yeah, the
think, yeah,
Infernus is picked. Yeah,
there goes
for sure.
Mindfire, and Piece of Ultra Graviton is interesting. I'd be pretty tempted to go for another drop hip in Dis. Because if you don't have 2 drop hips total, you can't do the cycle. But if you have 2, you can cycle them.
Yep, definitely an interesting pick. I can imagine both players have practiced the matchup though.
Oh, I'm sure.
So this circumstance has probably happened before, so I'm not going to doubt their decision here.
Okay. Oh, it's because he's. I mean, that makes sense. So he's doing the Winds of Death, so he makes sure that JDG doesn't have the full Ultra Gravitron to play after the Winds of Death. Honestly, I think JDG loves that Winds of Death getting played. Because now his deck is just pure gas with the actions, and he can pull it whenever he wants once he gets the autoencoder down and just archive like crazy by discarding all those creatures. So that's a very interesting play.
They can't do it this turn unless they have a draw pip though, right? Because their draw is empty.
Yes, yeah. But I think he's got to do a disc turn first. So we know he's got the jar in hand, right? Or in the archives.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be at least 1 turn. I guess the problem is if it's in the archives, he might not flip the deck. All right, in here somewhere is doing their stuff. We're getting a Boo, a BR Geist, another in here somewhere, and a Boo. LB Straight coming down, capturing, going up to 11. So we are going to tax that with the Universal Keylock, but still just very, very fast for Dammat. Has he called any houses other than Geistoid? You see. Oh, he has done Star Alliance. Okay. And Unfathomable. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, a very turn count, even though it looks very one-sided.
All right, JDG. Taking a think here. Oh, doesn't think for too long. Does go into Dis.
I think you got it right.
I guess in Dis he should have a draw pip with the Waking Nightmare, I believe is the other card that has one, because that's the other way he can do the cycle.
Yeah, for sure. So we've not seen the Spontaneous Awakening so far, have we?
We know it got picked up by an in here somewhere a while ago, so it might just be sitting in hand for Demott, just holding that
Right, yeah.
over.
Yeah, just holding it.
She can't really just play it for the Amber Pip either, because then it picks up a different artifact and then it's stuck on the board the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Mindfire doesn't hit any pips.
No, unfortunately not.
Stirring Grave, though, archiving the Infernus is not bad.
Along with the massive other influx of archives you have.
Well, and JDG not having to take his archives here to play the Eden Star, I think is pretty big. He would have flipped the deck either way. Actually, I
with
wonder
the
if you.
draw pip. Yeah.
Yeah, but my main concern is he's just not going to have the amber control to get through another turn of Dammat's Geistoid.
No, perhaps that's what they're
Ooh,
thinking here.
uh, interesting. JDG Eaton's Jars. Boo.
Ooh, I think I'm behind. Oh no, yeah, I see it now.
So, yikes. That could be unless it was
I
unless
don't-
the spontaneous
I-
awakening was discarded. I don't think it
no, it is in
was.
archives. I think at this point they're just trying to stop as many pips being played as possible.
Well, but the problem is, like we said, with the spontaneous awakening, you get to replay the Eaton's Jar. So he can basically just turn that off by spontaneous
Oh
awakening's the
right,
Eaton's
yeah.
Jar and calling one of JDG's cards like Mindfire.
God, so many
Uh,
complex interactions here.
yeah, that's tough, but this
Yeah,
should be.
I'm glad you're here. You can just correct me on everything. I do not play Alliance, can you tell?
I think I've been thinking about this match too much because I'm excited about it. Because I love JDG's deck. I love that it's made it this far, but this is tough. Very, very
This is
tough.
an
Yeah.
uphill climb.
Okay, so there's a spontaneous awakening. So since we keep talking about it, let's take a look. So if your opponent is haunted, oh, JDG's not haunted, so it doesn't do anything. So he actually knew there he was able to do that, and he could stop Demont from making him haunted by calling the booze.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
high level.
he knows what's up. However, he has to have an answer to this amount of amber that's about to come down.
We do have the Infernus, right? Which would stop here for a turn.
Do you have the Infernus?
It was tucked away with Stone Grave.
Hmm,
But you don't have you're then stuck with a bunch of archives next turn that you can't do anything with.
yeah, and that spontaneous awakening does get archived again by the in here somewheres. So JG bought himself a turn, but he basically does he have any Ember control in Logos? He didn't get the auto vac down. I think that's such a critical piece for this. So he has to go back into Dis to play the Infernus just to stop the key. Unless that bot booked in has a capture pip on it, but I don't remember. See if I can find it. Nope,
You
it's
need
got a
two though,
damage.
right?
Yeah,
Because
you
you're
would
on
need
7.
to. Yeah. Okay, so we do see the disc call. Does take the archives. I mean, this disc can do a lot of amber control if you play out a bunch of stuff. We can mark of dis as well here, but again, if you get haunted, that doesn't really help you because then Demont can play the spontaneous awakening.
Right, and Mark of Dis will put them in a house they want to be in anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so BR Geist in here somewhere getting purged by the Infernus. That's very fair picks.
Probably a bit late at this point though.
Yeah.
I love that Dammat's alternated their strategy though, preparing for the Quicksil Stones. So can play one more creature if they want to. I'm not sure how useful an Umbra. Oh, you got Umbra Fiend and then Mark of Dis, right?
Yes, his Umber Fiend is, yeah, 2 power.
Niche but possible.
I mean, like you said, Mark of Dissing the Albia Stray doesn't really help you too
Yeah.
much. Okay, does exactly that.
hmm
Ooh, those capture pips on that Mark of Dis also not too bad.
Not the worst. I got something right for once. And that's not too bad. From what I've seen, both these decks have cool upgrades, right? Oh no, I've just witnessed core upgrades before. Just the access tonight being cool. I had a singing scythe in round 2 that X Kicks had, I think.
Was that the
And
one of the
singing,
decks has? I guess maybe it's Harmed that has the double uh singing side too.
yeah,
Stops there though, so JDG does not get haunted. Um, but well, this is interesting. Dammat goes very quickly back into Geistoid.
certainly can't blame them.
See, the Winds of Death is gone. It's just getting value off that Spontaneous Awakening pips.
Yep, 15 cards in hand. This to me is just a slow, slow death.
What's funny is both of these decks want to do that.
Yeah,
Question is
exactly.
who's actually dying. But I think JDG's in a pretty tough spot here. That Infernus was some of his last Amber control.
hmm But doesn't get to check.
That is a
They've given
huge opportunity for
they've given him a
JDG.
turn, which is is huge.
Except for JDG to actually use this autoencoder, there's a chance of giving it to Demont. But I guess at this point in the game, maybe that's fine. You kind of just need pressure.
Doesn't like they're gonna go for it.
Hmm. Oh,
Oh, maybe they will.
doesn't even ask to bring it back. So autoencoder comes down. We finally see the archiving start going. Mod allows the rollback, but we'll see. JDG. Oh, JDG able to flip the deck there with the Lethalogica into QMEX. Very, very nice. So stopping the
If they did
Spontaneous
draw the
Awakening.
bottom 10, that would be cool. But they unfortunately didn't.
That would have been cool, yeah. JDG.
Just saying, no, I'm gonna draw it anyway.
Tough thing, though. Let's see. Hard to know what was redrawn into, but a lot of what you needed for Amber Control was in that discard. So that one card might be make or break for JDG here.
100% at this point in the game, you need every card you can get.
We did see Demont archive the rogue operations though, so I wonder if he just goes into Star Alliance here and mills. Nope, just sticking with faithful Geistoid.
The old faithful. God, I love Phantasmal Visit. Such a cool card.
It is. And it's one. I mean, it's yeah, it's interesting because it's like exactly the same as was it Unsettling Ancestry?
Oh, is it exactly the same?
I think it might be. Oh,
I think
one
I'll
of
have a look.
them might have to be. No, I think they're both. If they're haunted, they get archived. Um,
Yep, exactly the same.
but I feel like in Geistoid is a house that more often you're able to just keep replaying Geistoid turn over turn, so it gets more value than Unsettling Ancestry.
If they had both in this deck, it'd be cool.
Yeah, they could have, huh? All right, so Demont getting up to 9 Amber. JDG also may have the key lock again, but that doesn't really help you at this point.
And they have no option to replay the Infernus, do they?
No. So it has to implode the QMX just to be able to play the Techno Fiend. That does get you a draw, though.
Mm-hmm.
This card's Double Doom. Okay, so auto-encoding, Mark of Disses, and there is game 1 going to Demont.
Well, a thrilling
Um,
showcase of what Dammat's deck can do, but perhaps not so good a showing for JDG.
yeah, it's tough. Let me see. Should have these.
Got to make sure Snoopy gets those logs.
They are critical. I mean, he's been able to do amazing stuff with them, so I love him. Ooh, looks like we
Yeah,
lost Dammat.
indeed.
Let's see if he
Yep.
gets in or.
It wouldn't be a day on the Crucible if the rematch feature broke. JDG just saying, yep, I'm going to play first. I'm just going to play without an opponent. There's all sorts of puns we could do with Dammat's name here. Yeah, looks like a remake's going to have to happen.
Okay, we just gotta remember JDG should have first turn or choice of first turn.
You might have to move the names as well.
JDG made it again, so we should be good. Nice.
All right, a short delay, but right back into game 2 here.
Right back whenever they actually click the button. Okay.
Yeah. They can change first player here. I wonder, Orion, have you seen anyone choose to go second in this tournament so far?
Let's go back and look. It really depends on the deck, but so many of the like combo ones kind of have specific pieces, especially if it's artifact centric. You usually want to go first just so you see more cards. Whereas if it's going to be more like some of the Amber Skies ones that are just playing out a bunch of pips and stuff, those might be better off going second. I mean, some of the Amber Drake decks, you could just forge a key on turn one if you can play more than one card.
Yep. Ooh. God, aren't you lucky you had Quixelstone there? That would have been a disgusting turn one if you
That would
didn't
have
have it.
been pretty rough. Lethal Logica discarding a whole lot there, gets the Universal Key lockdown, but both Mark of this, Waking Nightmare,
And an
and the
Infernus.
Infernus. Demont can't do the BR guys though until they clear the Calp because of the early Quixelstone. JG though, again, lucky not to have hit the jar. See if he had it in hand.
But damn it, just saying, no worries. Let's just farm some Geistoid pips.
Yeah, and Geistoid, what a house.
Oh, we're going Star Alliance this time.
Survey and Event Horizon. Interesting.
So we can draw from that that the majority of the rest of the hand has got to be Star Alliance, right?
I don't know. Very, very interesting. I mean, we saw, I think,
Yeah.
in the match against the first Quixelstone deck, um, the Star Alliance is
Oh,
really what did a lot of the work.
look at that
Mind
Mindfire
Fires.
discard, though.
Very, very good. The Island of Misfit Toys. However, that is both Mind Fires in the discard. So if we see it be our Geist here, this could be really rough news for JDG. Nope, it is Event Horizon hitting a Rogue Operations. That is not a bad hit there.
Oh,
Second Rogue Ops.
look at that. Cop
Hitting,
and Bro, crazy.
but hardly any more of the Geistoid. So very, very little Geistoid getting discarded after that. So that next in here somewhere is going to do some work to be our Geist. Going to be scary.
I've played Double Rogue Operation before. I've never seen both of them steal one.
That is pretty unlucky, isn't it?
It
Uh,
certainly is. It would have got
pretty,
them to check here. Oh no, because of a universal key lock.
yeah, pretty cagey turn here from JDG. Just getting the Matter Maker down, discarding some Starline stuff, and there is the in here somewhere. So ready to set up the next Geistoid loop. Again, there's no artifact control in JDG's deck, so yeah, you hit the island and the other in here somewhere. But again, BR Geist here could be backbreaking for JDG.
Mm-hmm. I'll be glad Geistoid was made as a house. There it is.
Yeah. Beergeist Infernus is maybe one of the things that makes Geistoid the best against older sets. Like there's other things, but that specific play is just so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
See if Dammat goes for similar things this time. Again, you could just hit both Mind Fires. You could hit the Waking Nightmare in the Mind Fire. You could hit a piece of Ultra Gravitron.
Mark of Dis, maybe. The one with the double capture to stop capturing happening later in the game.
Yeah,
There isn't a lot of amber control in JDG's deck, right?
correct. It is
Outside of the loop itself.
mostly those cards that we're seeing right now: the Infernus, the Mark of Dis, and the Mind Fires, and then the Universal Keylock. Okay, so it does go for Mindfire and a piece of Ultra Gravitron there. And it is the drop hit Mindfire, so
Yep,
combo is
exact
still
same as last game.
technically live. But again, with the. I guess it'll be another 2 turns before the island can do anything. But if you
Yep, but an
JDG,
inevitability at this point.
yeah, you've got to cycle your deck fast to make sure that that Infernus doesn't get BR Geisted again.
Precisely. I do love that we have Grim Reaper on the other side as well, which just plays itself, immediately purges itself, so Quicksort Stoners right back to being active again.
Yep. That one did get
I've
discarded
I've
this
seen
time
so
though.
many fun interactions with Grim Reaper. It's such a cool card.
That one is a very cool one, and I do kind of, I don't know. There are some things in Geistoid that are too much, but Grim Reaper is just very cool, especially the fact that they set it to 1. Like
Hmm.
you can't have more than one is kind of an interesting call.
I wonder if that's because of how anomalies used to work. Could you get more than one of the same anomaly? I can't say the word, but you know what I mean.
I don't know if I've ever seen more than one of the same anomaly. I'd have to do some DOK digging for that.
Otherwise, it seems like a strange call to stop it at one.
Okay, so the Island of Misfit Toys comes down. You can only play 2 more cards here if you're Tamat. Otherwise, you will flip, and then that island gets a lot worse. Yeah, that's true. Snoopy says near future lens can appear as multiples now that it's not an anomaly, but when it was an anomaly, I don't know that there was ever more than one.
Fair enough. So a conscious choice then.
So it gets in here somewhere in Beergeist, and that's it. So it does stay haunted. Only 1 card left in draw. Doesn't get the check though. That Universal Keylock is doing a little bit of work here.
Yep, spontaneous awakening still unseen, so we can assume it's in the hand at this point.
Yeah, and JDG being haunted, you have to watch out for that. And Island of Misfit Toys ready to come down next turn, or
Yeah, because
ready
at
to
this point,
fire.
right, if you have a handful of Logos, you might be able to do something, but if it just immediately gets taken away from you, I feel like we're sports commentators at the moment. I've never done this before. It's fun.
Love it. It's great. I love playing Keyforge, but this has always been a blast to be able to do this kind of stuff. Doing it with someone is just
Hmm.
so much better.
Just helps build the community, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Ooh, okay. So we do see the Eaton's Jar. Does hit the Spontaneous Awakening this time,
Smart move.
and then just discards the Techno Fiend. So still going to be a brutal turn of Geistoid here, but not quite as bad as it could have been.
Nope. But Keylock is likely to pop through Dammat's side, I imagine.
Yeah, but also
Playing.
I think he's got the ability to replay Infernus here, right? Because he can Winds of Death and then BR Geisted again.
Yep, exactly that.
But first, in here somewhere, of course.
Of
Play
course,
it
we've
so
got
you
two
can then
copies.
play it again off the island.
So I'm assuming they don't pick Ghostoid here because they can bring all their Ghostoid back.
Yeah, it's probably like the Rogue Ops. So again, Dammat, all Dammat really needs to do is just keep lots of amber pressure going at this point, and I think it'll be really hard for JDG to catch up. There's an event
Yeah,
horizon.
exactly.
Okay, so plays the BR Geist for nothing, and discard Spontaneous, and then Islands.
So they could Winds of Death, use their Grim Reaper, purge it, and then play the Infernus.
Yep, and JDG has exactly 6 creatures in the discard, so the Winds of Death still won't archive them enough to make him not haunted. It's always one of those things you
Yes,
gotta
yep.
watch out for with those kind of things, like Winds of Death changes the math.
Mm-hmm. They would get Infernus back anyway, so they'd be back to 11 in the
Yeah.
discard.
Hmm. Taking his time thinking about this one though. Kind of wonder
Well,
what
yeah,
the
you want to play it correctly, right?
yeah, okay. So does archive the rogue operations there. So now we have 3 rogue operations and event horizon, so able to possibly steal a key unless you get super unlucky again. Along with all of this nonsense that's about to happen in Geistoid.
Mm-hmm. Do we know how many pips Dammat's deck has? Do you have that on file?
No. I
It
could
just
take a
seems like
look.
every other card they're playing comes with a pip at this point.
Uh,
Oh, they might have messed up here. They won't be able
oh,
to play
didn't
the
get
Infernus,
haunted.
right?
Yeah, archive too much maybe. But that might be why he was doing the in here somewheres first. Just decided the Infernus wasn't worth it. I guess next turn you could play it. Or you could just go into the Star Alliance and steal everything set up for
Yeah, I mean, at this
next
point,
round.
does it really matter?
Okay. JG going into logo, so see if he's got the autoencoder here. And then that auto vac too is one of the big things that got milled last game that JDG would like to see. All right, there's the autoencoder. Eclectic doing some more archiving. There's the auto vac. And again, very stacked archives there with the Winds of Death putting tons in archives. Is able to flip the deck here. Man, I that was an interesting couple of turns. I think because of the way that went down, JDG is not out of this yet. Um, because we still have one Mindfire and 2 draw pips in Dis, which means you can do the rule of 6 cycle. But
Certainly can.
Dammat has 19 cards in archives, so if Dammat pulls those at the right time, those Mindfires are not hitting the only 6 cards in your hand.
Well, you can't do the loop with Mind. Oh, can you? Can you do it with the non-draw pip Mindfire?
You just have to have 2. Oh, maybe. Let's see. So 2 draw pips total.
Yeah, I'm doing
I
the
think
math
you
in my
just
head.
need 2 total between 3 cards. But
Yeah.
now, is that right? No, because the third one isn't drawing you anything. You have to have. Hmm. Yeah, maybe you can't. To think about that, you can do like the Waking Nightmare Okay, so we see Demont going into Star Alliance again, just had all that Star Alliance stuff ready to go. So we're going to see lots of Rogue Ops here. Only has 4 cards left though.
Well, they only need a couple.
Yeah. Already getting to 9, which is going to be the threshold that AutoVac can tax for.
We do get a rare Brobnar sighting.
Obviously, the right house call in this position, but
I think an Alliance Brobnar is pretty overpowered.
we saw, let's see, at least one. Camaros had the Brobnar, the double final refrain. It was a crazy deck. But here we just got so many pips in Star Alliance along with some stealing from the Rogue Ops.
Yeah, it's crazy just how many roles this deck can play. You have to think about how much time went into mastering it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Demont won Worlds with it, so
Hmm.
it's definitely been proven. Okay, so a
I
bunch of
wonder if we'll
discards.
see a shake-up when Prophetic Vision comes out.
I think we could. Some of those prophecies are, or the fate effects seem very, very disruptive.
I'm going into the set completely blind, so I have no idea what any of the cards do.
I didn't see most of it until Lord Judo's stream, and then I saw a good chunk of the stuff they opened. Okay, so we've got Pip there, and then just a bunch of discards to the autoencoder,
Hmm.
and taxing from the autovac. Yeah, Snoopy, that's a good call. And mass mutation, it's very difficult to gain amber without having a board. That's kind of just what the set is set up to do is have a board, big board. And
Well, you don't have Geistoid, right?
how are you supposed to do anything without Geistoid?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you even playing Keyforge if you don't have Geistoid?
It's just like Yu-Gi-Oh! You get to watch a 20-minute turn on your opponent's side, and then you play your 4-turn mass mutation, 4-card mass mutation turn.
All it takes is one Dysania, it all turns around. Except not. One Dysania is usually not enough.
And then your opponent can just play on you.
Yep.
They Winds of Death yours, and then Winds of yeah. And then Bria Geist, it would do the same thing here, unfortunately.
All right, and here somewhere's for rogue operations again. So just kind of again setting up to that one rogue operation having a drop hip is so good because Demont does can have as big of a hand as he wants and can just cycle it whenever using that drop hip to get more stealing going. So
Hmm.
BR Geist doesn't have anything in JDG's side to hit, so it just gets a Retro Technician Lee, which cannot reap here. Goes to 7, which
Nope,
is
not this turn.
check, technically. Lee also notably small enough that can't be hit by a Mark of Dis and get locked back into, because that would have been actually really, really bad for Demont to play. I think you probably don't even play an unfathomable creature there no matter what, even if it is like, I guess Bryo can't be marked just by on principle, but and Calps are too small, so it's hard to not have a good choice there, I guess. Come Officer Palik, you don't want to be our guy's Palik.
Yeah, definitely not.
That's about the only thing. But very tough spot for JDG here. Still 7 cards in draw, 7 in discard, so you're really not set up for your looping yet.
Yep, it's going to be a big uphill climb.
If he was able to get back to Infernus, there are some nice targets in the discard there for Infernus to hit. But again, those Rogue Ops on their own are just going to make it so hard to get any traction.
Yeah, exactly. You can just hold them until your opponent goes above 4. So have you had the joy of facing any of these decks before?
Well, I'm locals with Dave C, so I've played against that alliance several times.
Hmm.
I've done a little bit of practice against some other things, but I don't play Alliance too much. Starting to get into it more just because again my locals are doing it and the Final Frame has made it fun, but I think I wouldn't get into it as seriously unless they changed the restricted list a little bit more. Because like
Yeah,
if you're not building to counter Bryocalp, you're going to be in trouble. And even if you have things to counter Bryocalp, you're still in trouble because of things like what this deck is doing, right?
yeah. Just do that to win.
Okay, so we do have a
I think the
Waking.
UK's. Oh, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say Waking Nightmare. So if JDG plays a couple disc creatures here, we'll stop the key. But
Yep, can play two, but they only have two, right? Oh, no, the Infernus can be back in hand.
discards the Mindfire. It's got to be a tough call. Sorry, you were saying though UK is getting a little bit more into Alliance,
Oh,
or not
it's
so
more
much.
media. I think they recently did an event where it was multi-set and you had to have Plague Rats in your alliance build.
I mean that sounds great. Except I don't think I
Yep.
own a Plague Rats deck, so I'd have to borrow something.
Oh, lucky you. Back in the day where Age of Ascension was like the new thing, I had tons.
I mean I've opened a lot of AOA. I'll have to go look, but I don't think I've opened. Have I?
It's always I see shadows on AOA and I'm like, yes, and then I see the Plague Rats and I'm like, no.
They're fun until you realize that they don't do much.
Hmm. Well, this could be it here.
Yeah, I mean JDG needs. Let's see. So we've got. It's not the Mark of Disc with the captures yet, so it needs a creature and then the Mark of Disc with the captures at this point.
Hmm.
Still could be two creatures, I guess, or if one of them is the Infernus. But there was a lot of draw to get through to cycle back to that.
You must think they have to have it though, otherwise you could just go into Logos and tax +3 there, right?
Go into Logos, or you at least play the Mindfire to see if you can
Yeah, you could possibly get a
get a
two-tip
steal.
still.
Discards the Techno Fiend as well. Okay, so it has to have the Infernus here, right? Yeah, there's the Infernus. Again, some good targets, but is it too little too late? Assuming it'll be BR Geist in here somewhere. Or just both in here somewheres. Because there's no 2-pip things in Dammat's deck.
Snoopy talking about some AOA Plague Rats that do things.
Just think about if Plague Rats had like, I guess enhancements wouldn't really help them, would it? Unless each of them brought an
Yeah,
enhancement. That would be something.
they have to find some way to reach each other, I think, would be the buff for them.
Okay, there's a Mark of Dis as
Getting to
well.
6.
Getting some capture, getting to 6. Putting Damat down to 2. Which will be check. It doesn't look like it now because of the Waking Nightmare. But at the start of JDG's turn, that tax will go back down. Tomato loaded up with Star Alliance stuff. Could easily steal back the same.
Yep, definitely has potential to take them off check here. I like to think when I'm an uncle, all my nephews are getting Keyforge stuff. I'm going to build the community from the family up.
I'll try that on my nieces. I think they're more interested in soccer, football for you, but
Indeed.
soccer.
We don't have any football cards.
Well, I just meant the actual actually playing.
That's how you could get them into it. You could find them a football related set.
Maybe they'll do like a Blood Bowl set. That'd be kind of fun. There was an idea floated around for like a racing set. Like everything is based around almost like Mario Kart or like a Death Race kind of theme for the Keyforge set.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty fun.
that'd be cool. I
Ooh.
like the design space in this game.
I mean, they can basically do whatever they want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Unfathomable Call here is pretty interesting. Hmm. Oh, Squall Master is just an enemy creature. I was gonna say the what's the I think there's another one that could actually exhaust artifacts, right? Which would make this basically a guaranteed key, but I don't think that one's in the mods deck. I'm trying to remember which one that is. Freaky something?
Germinator?
Uh
That's the Kariki you're thinking of. I think there isn't another Kariki.
Rustomizer is a reap effect. I think there's one that's a scrap effect. That happened in one of the
You might be
games we were
thinking of
watching the other day.
Photographic Rod.
That's the artifact.
Hmm.
Next, there was a scrap effect that I missed in the. I think it was what game was that? One of the other games I was just casting. I think it exhausted an artifact. Hmm.
Snooping asking for no external IPs. Yeah, me and Orion are going to create a set. It's on us too, so
There's no external IPs yet. The way the Crucible is built, the whole idea of bringing in an external IP makes sense. I don't want them to do that because I don't like just that every single IP is now part of Magic. Um,
hmm.
I don't want them to do that,
But
but
they've picked up a Lord of the Rings game, haven't they, Ghost Galaxy?
have they? Oh, the Lord of the
I
Rings
think
one.
so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like an
I haven't looked into it.
older FFG that they're like reprinting, I think, or something like that. Star Alliance call from JDG. What do we have for? Ooh, there's a capture pip on Mutagenesis Researcher. And some more archiving, but you still got such a long ways to go to get that deck down to the size you want it for JDG.
Yeah, this is an absolute marathon.
Mutagenesis Researcher saves the day for a turn. We get a steal 2, steal 1, steal 2, discarding a bunch of stuff. Dammat going up to 12, which is not a answerable number for JDG, I don't believe. It's even in Logos, you could auto vac and play the key
Keylock,
lock.
yeah. I've got to go play Discovery tomorrow, and I'm wondering if the games are going to be any shorter than this.
Uh,
That set is so long.
if you get the wrong Brobnar, it gets super long. If you get the
Yeah,
right dis, it can go very fast. Some of the dis is super bursty.
I'm hoping watching these games just wills a quicker game into existence.
All right, so 13 Amber, check for key 3 for Dammat. JDG has the artifact lineup, but I think just a little bit too late on the setup here.
Hmm.
I gotta wonder, like again, like you said, I'm sure they practice this matchup a lot. So JG maybe probably just knows you have to take calculated risks with things like the Lethalogica. Those Lethalogica hits hurt, I think, in both games.
Yeah. And I think on Dammat's side, just knowing that if they get to play the Infernus, what they have to purge to stop JDG from doing their strategy.
Salty Guitar, welcome. You've joined just in time to see the map possibly win here.
Yep, see who you're cheering for.
Or
Where's
if you
Dammat's
just
from?
joined and then just said you were looking at who's winning and then said, go
Yeah,
that person. That also is fair. Dammat is, I believe, Italian. Let me double check though, because I said that wrong another time and I want to Let's see.
Implosion for a draw.
I don't know what that says, but I'm gonna assume it's also cheering Dammat on.
Yeah. And that's
And there
that.
is the game for Dammat. So taking it 2-0 versus JDG. Um, man, just brutal. Brutal stuff for JDG. But again, that's kind of what we saw from Dammat's deck, even against the last Quixelstone. It's like you can try to slow the game down with those, but Dammat's deck can just
Yeah.
pivot into that Geistoid house, which is basically an alliance deck on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And
A jack of all trades.
yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
I think that's ultimately what you're looking for in an alliance deck, right? Something that can do multiple things.
I mean, maybe. I think it's actually pretty rare, and this is probably again a real testament to why Dammat has done so well, both in this tournament and in Worlds, is because even though it is like this Browcalp game plan, you're able to build that in a way where it still has the ability to pivot. Where some of these other decks are so all in on one game plan, like even JDG's deck, it kind of has one game plan, and if that gets hit by like a Tachyon Pulse or something that destroys all the artifacts, it doesn't really have a pivot. So in Alliance, I feel like you almost see more decks that are one game plan than you do in maybe
Yeah.
Archon. And so Damont's deck being able to be good enough to beat Alliance decks and still have multiple game plans is just pretty crazy. But
It's very impressive stuff.
in terms of raw power, GR is still higher than MM. That is also true. Uh, but all right, so that is our first finalist for uh, Final Refrain Alliance. Dammat taking it 2-0. We'll see them in the finals, see if he can defend his world title against the winner of Random Joe and Harmed. That game, I believe, happening in less than 24 hours tomorrow. I think Riku is going to be streaming that one, so be on the lookout for that. Kalos, any last words?
Remember to get the log.
I got the log.
And thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everyone for watching. Be on the lookout for this and that game tomorrow and the rest of our challenger matches. And we'll see you next time on the Final Refrain. Take care, everybody.